Okay.
Mary, thank you so much. That was incredible. I think thank you. How is she? Thank you. That was incredible. Sharing the stories. Anne-Marie, Anna, James, say thank you very much. Our leaders of the future. So thank you for sharing all of your insights and wisdoms with us. We now have our inspirational leaders. So we have with us Sean McIntyre. We have Victor Nadler. And we have Michael Nardi.
Hello.
I've had the pleasure of working with Sean before, but not Victor or Michael. I think one of the themes that keeps coming up this evening, also, by the way, apologies for having my phone on my lap. I forgot my watch, so I'm not sneaking in text because I'm literally trying to keep track of time. One of the themes that has come up repeatedly is that of resilience. And the idea of building resilience and how we sort of bring resilience into the workplace. And to Mary's point, how we use resilience for well-being, I think, really. So I think, actually, before we do that, let's do the little introduction. Getting really excited about the questions. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and your journey at Barclays? Sean, should we start with you?
Oh, kick off. I feel like I've just had a career masterclass, by the way, so thank you. And I'm not quite sure how we follow that act, but I will do my best not to let my peers down. I'm actually going to start to take a little bit of a step back. I joined Barclays 10 years ago, but I started my career in Benton, in retail, so I can fold a jumper like nobody else can. I moved then into a telephony role, working for a PT in a service centre. And the reason I want to talk about that is that's where I really cut my teeth in terms of customer and really understanding what's important to a business from that perspective. Anyway, qualified as a lawyer, 20 years later, worked at Lloyds Banking Group and joined Barclays 10 years ago now. So I've done a decade. I'm not a lawyer anymore. I'm now in the business, and I made that transition about 6 years ago. I'm managing director of our Life Moments division. What does that mean? We love a good name. Effectively, I support our customers and our brokers help fulfill their home ambition. So that's mortgages, protect their wealth, build financial resilience, so that's savings and investment, and then protect themselves from future unwanted events, and that's really insurance. But I'm really proud to be part of Barclays, but I've had quite a broad career.
Thank you.
I'll jump in next, and great to be here with all of you this evening. I joined Barclays almost 10 years ago. I've got a similar story to Jay, as I applied for the grad scheme, which was rejected as part of that. So I think there's a little bit of a theme there. And I think my story also speaks to resilience somewhat, because after getting rejected and doing 200 applications to try and break into the industry, coming from a university that wasn't really a target campus for investment banking, it was quite hard for me to try and break my way in, essentially, and I had to kind of go through the back door. I took a very low-paid job that looked good on paper. I used that to be able to get a job that ultimately I was actually headhunted by Barclays 18 months later on. So managed to get my way in somehow. I've been here for 8 years. I've done quite a few different roles within the bank. A lot of that speaks to the importance of having a good network within the organisation and institution, also having supporters and people that will vouch for you when you're not in the room, as James also said earlier. I currently work within a team called ESG Advisory. It's a sector coverage team within the investment bank. We essentially help companies become more sustainable on their transition. It covers ESG as a whole, which is comprised of 3 things: environmental responsibility, social sustainability, and making sure that companies have good governance frameworks in place. So it's a very, very broad role. It covers everything from climate commitments to diversity and inclusion, and helping companies do their DEI engagements and actually making sure that they're run properly. And I think the importance of this and everything that we're seeing and hearing from the speakers today is really fueling the growth of my business going forward. So it's actually very reassuring to see that a lot of what we're speaking about today is making huge progress within the corporate community as companies step forward on making pivots. We'll speak about simplicity then. Also,
Thanks, Nick. Unlike these two, I didn't get rejected by Barclays. I got rejected by everyone. So I'm not sure why they're complaining. I joined Barclays about, I guess, 11 or 12 years ago. Before that, I spent 15 years at Goldman. But I kid you not, I went through the same process. I'm from Ghana originally. I didn't go to a particularly good university when I came. I got rejected by literally everybody. I took a job, I trained as an accountant. And I really wanted to get into banking, not because I knew anything particularly about banking or because I thought banking was the thing to do. It's just everybody I knew in banking made more money than I made as an accountant. And so I went through the process of how do I get into banking, and eventually it led me to business school, which is what I was told to do. So I went to London Business School. And then once I got into business school, all of a sudden, all the banks came in there. I got a bunch of interviews. I picked Goldman Sachs, again, not because I knew it was the best one, but it's because I liked the people who interviewed me. I joined Goldman. I joined Goldman in the markets division in sales. I did well. I made MD in 2009 as for partner. I made MD in 2005 for partner 2010. I didn't make it. I left and I decided to come here where I've done a variety of things. So, again, some of the stories are interesting. I think we've all lived them. The rejection, it just comes with it. Resilience, I'm sure we'll talk about as we go along. Jay is one of my mentees, and I can't believe he actually listened to something that I told him right clearly. You clearly did, and we touched on it, and then you touched upon it. If you don't ask, you don't get. As simple as that.
Thank you. Maria, maybe we can just continue with your story that you were just telling us. And I actually link that in with that resilience piece, because we have all probably experienced career rejections, and it is very difficult to bounce back from sometimes, because we've heard from various panelists saying that sometimes the reasons and rationales just are not clear to us. So maybe we can just start that resilience talk chat with yourself and how you've overcome this and ended up with now.
Yeah, so I think, listen, everyone's different, and you've got to figure out really what you want. And I think for me, it's always been about what's the end goal, right? What am I trying to achieve? And if you focus on that, I think you get your way through. So how have I sort of navigated my career? First off, and anyone who sort of spent time with me will hear me say this over and over again. I don't think about my career in longer than 12-month stretches. Why 12 months? That's the bonus cycle. Right? Every 12 months, we get paid a bonus. The Fed tells me what they think about me once a year. I don't care what anyone says, once a year they tell me. So I go 12 months, 11 months, 10 months, 9 months, and before you know it, I've done a year. Then I've done 2 years, and I've done 5 years, and I'm now in my 27th year, as it were. Right? So that gives you some resilience if you work into something. Right? I go home, it's been a hard day, but I know what I'm doing, so I replan. I think about it, and I come back. That's the first. The second thing is, I think very hard, but you have to develop the ability to do what I just said. Go home at the end of the day, put today behind you, come in tomorrow and start again. Irrespective of what the day was, good or bad. If you have a bad day and you come in and you're hiding because you're worried about this, you're not going to perform. If you don't perform, the cycle just goes. If you have a good day and you come in and think, I'm the man, high-fiving people, you're not performing at your best, right? So every day, hard as it may sound, go home, forget about today, come in tomorrow and start again. And those two things, short term, here's my goal, I want to get to the 12 months, right? And just trying to forget what happened yesterday and be my best every day, I think for me, is what has carried me through. Everyone's different, but I think without having that goal, this is what I'm trying to get to, I think the resilience gets you high. You can get worn down very, very, very good.
Wonderful, thank you. Victor, how about you?
Yeah, I think mindset is such an important piece of the puzzle here. Just to give you guys a warning, right? The rejection doesn't stop once you get the job, right? I just want to be very, very open and honest with you guys. So I'm in a client-facing role. We're pitching for business all of the time. A lot of the transactions that we do, we spend about 3 weeks worth preparing presentation materials for a big pitch, right? 70% of the time, we don't get the business. You can't go in there with a mindset saying that we're not going to get this business from the outset and not put our best foot forward. So it's something that you just need to learn to deal with and become more resilient over time. It's also a great opportunity for reflection to understand, solicit feedback. Why wasn't I successful? And also understand when you were successful, to understand what was a differentiating factor in that instance, right? And I found, and particularly in Barclays, the way that we operate is, we're talking about the year-end bonus promotion cycle. As a junior member of the investment bank, you're benchmarked against everybody else in your cohort. Now, the way that they assess performance is they'll put you on a normal distribution, and they'll rank you from a 1 to a 5, a 1 being the best, a 5 being the worst in that group, right? And it has to broadly follow a normal distribution curve. Everybody is extremely high quality working at the investment bank, so I've always felt year after year, competition is extremely fierce. How do I differentiate myself? And for a number of years, I ended up coming right in the middle of the bell curve, thinking that I was doing the best job and most technically sound out of everybody within my class, but why isn't this being reflected in the performance outcomes at the end of the year? And actually soliciting feedback, understanding these small things, which are actually not job-related around my capability to do the job, but it's actually around being present, right? As we heard of before, being visible, people knowing who you are, not just working behind closed doors and actually not making noise around your accomplishments and achievements. And I think actually when I did differentiate myself, become closer to the top buckets, it was actually very, very small tweaks that I made over time. It wasn't a meaningful shift, and it actually wasn't very labour consumptive from my side. It was just these small refinements and adjustments. So I do think there is something in continuing to be resilient, understanding the reasons and drivers behind why you haven't been successful, and actually also finding that out when you have been successful, taking both of the pieces of positive and constructive feedback and actually integrating that to and as part of your self-development plan.
Wonderful, thank you. And Sean, how about yourself?
I guess I'll start with saying the level of resilience, adaptability will significantly influence how your career pans out. There's grit and determination, I'll call you with it later. So 3 tips from me: purpose, go to the gym, and attitude. So if I start with purpose, be hungry, know why you want to do whatever you're going to do, whether it's a promotion, whether it's an organisation. If you're chasing money as a motivator, let's just be truly honest about that. But find your purpose, because that's the thing when it gets really tough, you dig deep. It's like the thing that you just hang into. So don't chase promotions. When people come to me and say, I want a promotion, I'm like, well, hold on a minute. What do you actually want to achieve? What's your purpose? Find that, the promotions will come. So purpose, be hungry. Go to the gym. Resilience isn't something you're just naturally born with. I would love to tell you I could run a half marathon. I assure you I can't. But if I wanted to, I would have a plan. I build resilience. I can't go out partying and then think I'm going to run 13 miles. I don't know how half marathon is. That's how bad it is. But my point is, take it seriously. Like, work at it. Go to the gym. I loved what you said, Victor, about resilience this year was for this year's performance. Every year you're upping your game. You don't stop going to the gym. The pace of change, the volatility, particularly at this part of what we call the cycle, so the macro environment, is tough. And it's now that you up your game, you kind of dig deep, because you will get through it. So that was purpose, go to the gym. And then mindset and attitude, glass half full. I remind myself, I got 98 rejection letters when I first started. I think you beat me there. I feel like I'm choose something.
The other thing.
They were all on paper. I think today you don't even get a response via email. It's probably that bad. I got like written testimony, well, not to give you that. I got 40 on one day, literally open, reject. The only way I managed to get that is I've always had some people call it blind, some people call it optimistic. I just knew I would make it. I just believed. And then if you have that belief and you have purpose, it doesn't matter how you get there. It's a question of when and not if. And those are the three things I still carry through today.
Thank you, that's amazing. So if I summarise those incredible pearls of wisdom, work towards something, have those short-term goals in there, start every day fresh, differentiate yourself, be visible, up your resilience, every year is a new year, and then have purpose, go to the gym and have good attitude and mindset, which is fantastic. And Shannon, you touched on the fact that we are actually going through quite a tough macroeconomic, political, environmental stage at the moment. So things are quite difficult. Do you feel that through these challenging external factors that there are opportunities for growth and development?
Absolutely. I think, again, maybe I am blindly optimistic, so take what I say in that context. It doesn't matter. If anything, at this point, there are more opportunities because leaders need people with the right attitude to fix things more than ever. It is harder to break through, but if you can see that you're building your resilience through that and learning from everything, that should keep you motivated. But I think, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, it's sort of back to attitude. Everyone wants a winner on their team right now. It is a talent war. And why do they need it? Because it's tougher. So if you're driven, you've got the right attitude, you'll find the right opportunity. And I'll share one if I can. The last financial crisis was when I think my career was really born. I came back from mat leave, I'd had twins, came back with a bucket of imposter syndrome, not good enough. And then I remember on a conveyor belt Liverpool Street, and my boss said, oh, there's this big deal going on, we need someone with corporate experience who's got capacity. I had hardly any corporate experience. I think I'd been on something called a corporate transaction once when I was training, once. And then the second thing is I had loads of capacity, so that was true. But I stuck my hand up and I was like, I've got it. I've totally got it. I did not. I was like a swan, you're cool on the top and beneath, you're like, what the heck have I just done? I've got babies at home. But be a swan in that, right? You're the person, I gave my boss in that single moment on that escalator, the confidence that I had it. And I was blanking it, let's just be clear, right? I'll work it out. I will work it out, I believe. That was the single defining moment of my career, because I got to lead what was the school project, really, basically creation of Lloyd's Banking Group, as it is now, and readiness for something called Day One. But most of my career pivots have been born of run in when everyone else is running out. Don't expect to be 100% ready. If you've got the confidence and you know enough, then put the hard work in, and it will pay through. And that generally has worked out.
And you will. Victor, how about yourself?
Yeah, look, I think it is tough times currently, and that really speaks to the need and necessity to find ways to differentiate yourself. There are so many people going for the same jobs now. I think we're in a different part of the economic cycle, whereas 18 months ago there were loads of jobs going in the tech sector, for example, and now you're seeing, month after month, Amazon, Google have laid off 50,000 workers globally, etc. Right? So the competition is so much fiercer. I think now you really need to find ways to understand the business that you're applying to, understand what you want to get out of it, and actually understand why you are aligned with the career path that you're thinking of going into, right? And it becomes more and more important to build that network, to try and have conversations, to attend events like you're doing this evening, to actually network with people, stakeholders that are in the sector, and actually ask the thought-provoking questions that can also demonstrate your interests and leave a lasting impact on that person. Take their contact details, follow up with a LinkedIn message, follow up with an email, tell them, how great you thought they were on the panel. No, but seriously, I think now more than ever, right, you're having to find other ways to differentiate yourself and actually try and build that network to be able to get in through the door. And that's something that I applied at the very beginning of my career. It was a recommendation of a friend, and I'd been for an informal coffee with. This was before Barclays, so not part of the coffee culture over here. But speaking more broadly to building that network and actually, not having the right CV for the role, which I felt was a real blocker. It was actually, the differentiator was me being proactive and reaching out to somebody that I wouldn't have felt comfortable with without a little bit of encouragement from somebody that was already else in the industry as well. So if I could leave one thing with you, is that yes, you are all capable of being in a position and in 10 years' time sitting where I am, because I was in your seat at that point in time as well myself.
Thank you, Victor. And Michael, how about you?
I agree with anything with Shannon and Victor have said. I would say though that the one thing I disagree about is it's no different now than it was when we were looking, because we're one thing together. I think it's always been difficult. I think right now it seems like the environment is harder, the market environment, but it's always the same. There's always tens of thousands of people looking for their jobs. There were when I was looking, there were when you were looking, and that's not going to change. I think a lot of things that we talked about, someone talked about, sort of treating this thing like war. It's important if you're looking for a job, you've got to be focused. You're going to get rejections. You just have to power your way through. So I wouldn't necessarily start it by going, oh, things are so hard now, so don't worry, it's me, I'm not going to get a job. It's the same every year. Even in the good years, there are thousands in the good years. There are more people looking for jobs than in the bad years. So it's always the same. So it's more about getting yourself ready, believing in yourself. The one thing I always hear when I sit in sort of these things or on the panel with anywhere is any sort of diversity, whether or not it's ethnic minorities or women, is imposter syndrome. You never hear these two words in a room full of white men. You just don't. And we have to get over that. We have to get over that. Imposter syndrome, gone. Right? We have to get over that because we all start with our, well, I'm not sure. Do I deserve to be here? I'm looking around. I'm the only one here. It doesn't matter. Until you can get over that, it makes it very, very hard because it comes out in how you write, it comes out in how you interview, it comes out in your psychometric tests, it comes out in your video interviews. So you have to get over that. And I know it's hard and we all get it, but we have to learn to get over that. So I think that's very important. And again, and when it's in times like this where you say it's harder to find jobs, it's even more important that you go in with confidence when you go out looking for jobs.
Thank you. And Victor, you mentioned that it is very important to understand the sectors that you're going to go into. I would really love to hear from you guys around some of the trends that you are seeing or experiencing in banking, finance, that you think our guests should maybe pay some attention to.
Listen, I work in a team focused on sustainability, so I don't need a product marketing hat on for that. But look, I think more generally, right, there has never been a bigger seismic shift in the banking industry than we're seeing today in terms of focus on sustainability and advancing that. I think I always see a bank as a reflection of society because we finance every sector of the economy, from you guys in the room that might have current accounts or overdrafts with Barclays or mortgages with Barclays, right? To the large oil and gas companies that we finance, or name brand, consumer retail companies, for example, right? We are active in every sector of the economy, and our balance sheet is really a reflection of that. Never before have we had more focus and pressure from our retail customers all the way up to our large corporate customers and making sure that we're directing our capital in an ethical and sustainable way, right? And Barclays, as many other banks on the street, have set very ambitious net zero targets. We need to be net zero greenhouse gases by 2050, right? It's all good and well putting that on paper, as many banks have, but we really need to have strategy that we can deliver that, right? This is actually starting to impact the lending decisions that we make within the bank, the transactions that we underwrite as a bank as well, and the advice that we give to companies as part of their transition. And companies that are actually falling out of line with our transition strategy and plans, there's going to have to be some very, very tough conversations to have in the future to tell them that we can't finance them anymore. Or we're giving them almost an ultimatum to say within 12 months, if you're not at point Y from X, this is no longer a relationship that we can honour within the institution. And never before have we really seen kind of really like an uprooting of the traditional banking and investment banking model, and we're currently going through really, really big change in the industry. And what we're doing as a bank, and within my team specifically, is also providing advice to companies so that they can future-proof their businesses, continue to have open sources of capital funding so they can ensure that investors will continue to invest in them, banks will continue to bank with them, and that their customers will continue to buy products from them. And really, we have a large role to play as a bank with our pockets and our wallet to be able to direct capital at these institutions and force them to make positive change. So I think that's probably the biggest shift in the industry that I've seen in my time in this role.
Wonderful, thank you. Sean, how about yourself?
One's a thematic and one's perhaps the thing I think even before we think about climate change, it's right in front of us, AI. Right, so it's described as the fourth industrial revolution, and technology is not new, disruption is not new, but the pace and the scale at which this technology is going to develop over the next 12, 18 months, and the way consumers will consume it, react to it, I think it's almost like this conversation that's not happening. So for me, I think one of the things it's all pervasive. Doesn't matter what you're going to, banking, government, whatever sector, you've got to understand the beast that is AI. Lots of podcasts on it. The thematic that I want to call out that is, I think, even more prevalent than when I started my career and I was at your stage is the pace of change. It is extraordinary, and the skill, I think, those entering the workforce now will need far more than I had. I still had the benefit of a fax machine, right? You wanted to get something done, you had the luxury of the 5 minutes while the thing printed out. It doesn't happen anymore, it's all instant, and that's without AI in its true sense. So having a willingness to be adaptable and change is critical. If you don't have that, you'll be redundant as quickly as you arrived. It's a bit to the 12 months point Michael was making. But stay curious. It's a lifelong career of learning and adapting, because it'll be AI today, climate tomorrow, and it'll be something you probably can't even imagine in 5-6 years' time.
Thank you. And Michael, yourself.
So I think, you captured the two things that I think I would sort of, if I think about themes, sort of AI and ESG. I think the one thing I would say though is the more things change, the more things stay the same. Banking is a people business. You get that trading floor and you get that floors, it's full of people. So there will be, I remember in 2000 when the dot-com sort of boom started, I was told that in 5 years there would be no salespeople. That was 23 years ago. There's still salespeople out there. People like dealing with people. Right, that's not going to change. So I think we'll see all of these themes and all these changes, but right down, deep down, this is a people business. And so long as you stay with that, understand how to work with people. You guys have all been through school, through universities, you have clubs, you have friends. Understanding how to work with and deal with people is the thing that's going to carry you through all these changes. And, I knew nothing, I still know nothing about technology, but, you guys grew up with technology, you know so much more than I will ever know because you're going with the times. Stay adaptable, as Sean said, but again, underline this, it's a people business. Stay with that and you'll be fine.
Wonderful. It is shocking to think that half an hour has gone by. So we have one more question and then I'll open the floor for Q&A. And I guess the final question maybe has two parts. One is, what does that successful home look like or feel like for you guys? And any last personal wisdom for our guests? Sean, maybe we can start with you.
Wow, I think somebody said this earlier, it's your own race, so you define what success means to you. But be ambitious to reach your potential. Don't have that glass ceiling that we talked about. So it doesn't help your thought process to, for example, we're at a really tough time in the market. Okay, so what? Delete it. Just go at it and really believe in yourself. I think the panel earlier just gave some phenomenal, really good tips. The one that stood out for me, I describe it like this: every interaction is an interview. Anyone who doesn't believe that has kind of lost the plot somewhere. You'll get an impression from this panel today, and one day when you're managing directors, CEOs of businesses, I might rock up applying for a job, and what you think of me from this moment will at least make you consider interviewing me, or potentially absolutely rejecting me first off. And I think sometimes we underestimate the power of every touch point that we have at every moment.
Wonderful, thank you. Victor.
Yeah, if I could mind. So look, I used to look at things on kind of promotion being the benchmark of success. Right? I've been through starting off as a graduate, getting promoted to assistant vice president, then vice president, then director. And these are things that I worked hard for and drove to, and they were my North Star in terms of, real feedback, tangible material feedback on my performance and validating my existence at a certain level, right? I've always felt with every promotion that I've had, kind of the time for celebration and, self-praise kind of wears off within a couple of days, sometimes a couple of hours.
Yes.
And then you're just left with the question, okay, what next? What is the next benchmark? What is the next milestone, right? And is that 3 years away? Is that 4 years away? If it's 4 years away, can I make it 3? If it's 3, can I make it 2? And I always get left with the kind of feeling of unfulfillment after all of these kind of promotion cycles, because you build it up to be something so big, my mum would be crying on the phone, when I told her that I made a director, for example, and telling all my aunties and uncles, etc. We were proud. But for me, I was always just thinking about what was the next step. So I actually started to disassociate my success with my level or the promotion cycle. And really it was a couple of things, that kind of defined success for me. First and foremost, it is being in spaces, occupying spaces where people that look like me haven't historically been the majority. So that's something that I'm trying to do more of and inspire the next generation of talent. I think we're doing an amazing job bringing graduates in, but when I look at people, my counterparts at my level, there is not so much diversity within the industry, not talking about Barclays, but within the industry more broadly, of people from black backgrounds or mixed backgrounds at my level, right? So actually being able to inspire the next generation of talent and show them that you can do this too, and actually have that kind of representation that serves as a incentive or aspiration to the next generation. Then it's also, bring on something that Michael said earlier. This is a relationship business, right? And out of work, I feel that I'm very good at building relationships, and I wanted to be in a position where I could bring my authentic self and use that as a differentiating factor to bring towards my client relationships, right? And actually, we've mentioned the imposter syndrome about 10 times this evening. I started off mimicking others in my career and looking at what others did and actually trying to replicate that style. I'll tell you now, I think on all occasions that's absolutely failed in terms of success stories that I was able to drive. Actually being able to find your niche and where you're comfortable will actually provide the playing field for you to excel within your own right. So those are the two factors that I would contribute to success for myself.
I'm not sure of the answer to that. I still don't feel like I'm successful, as it were, if I'm honest. And I think Sean made the point around it's different for different people. Honestly, for me, it started off, just getting a job in banking felt like success to me. Then you get a promotion, then you set a compensation target, and then you hit that. And then you set a promotion target, and you hit that. And actually, I think the highest I've ever been in banking was when they gave me an office. Like, that to me was
You still have one?
just around.
I don't mind the way.
Just around. Right, so it means different things to people. And I sometimes sit around and think, I wish I'd done that, or I can do this. And again, everyone's different. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to stop working until I drop dead. So I'm hoping at some point I'll feel successful. I think I've done okay, and I'll take what I have. And as I say, everyone's different in terms of kind of what success looks like to them.
Wonderful, thank you. Do we have time for some questions, Michaela? 2 questions, right. Do we have mics? Yeah?
Yeah.
So we've got one just there. Lovely lady in the green. There. Oh, here we go. No, come forward. There. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll write this one down. So, is
Yes, hold on, I'll to her.
so I feel like based on what you said, there's a lot of talent in Barclays. So for the talent that wasn't picked up in the graduate programs or the internships or apprenticeships, what advice would you give for people that want to strategically navigate their way through such a global bank?
Shall I go? Yeah. Don't give up if it's something you're really passionate about. Be flexible on how you enter that environment. So I remember when I was my 98 rejection letters, however many I got one shot, and it was in Cambridge, and I really wanted to be in London because that's where all the big firms were. And it wasn't in the area that I really liked. It was a slightly different area of law. I just grabbed it. Yeah, so I think I learned through that exercise not to be precious about how I got in. And anyone who's got kids, you ever go to those play parks where you go up and down and in and out, and a soft play. Mine are old now, so God, I don't have to go anymore. I've got stuck in one, seriously. But don't give up, and you'll find your way through. Some of the great tips from the panel earlier, your network, all of that, those are sorts of strategies that you need to use.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I think I completely echo that. If you want to work for the institution, the role that you want to go for may not be on the market at the moment. They might not be hiring for that, right? But there are ways to get into the institution and then network, right? And speak to an example of a VP, which is in my team. She met a managing director in the ladies' toilets, and they liked each other's shoes, and they sparked a conversation there, and had an email dialogue after that. Now she's very, very successful in our team, right? So it's about actually finding a route, an unconventional route perhaps, to find your way into the institution, and then you can do networking, and you can reach out to Jay for a coffee chat.
Wonderful, thank you very much for the question. Was there another question?
Samaya, can I just add on to that, just to signpost that we've got 2 colleagues from talent acquisition right at the back of the room, if you want to have a chat with them after.
Can you guys give us a wave?
Everyone's helping.
Yeah. Wonderful. Where was our second question? I believe it was the gentleman just there.
Hello, thank you very much for sharing your story. You guys talk about being resilient, having plans, and making it happen. What if something happened in your personal life and you're having a very tough time? My question is, how do you balance your personal and professional life? And if there is a line, where do you draw the line between your work and your life?
It's a tough one. But going back to I think what we all say, right? You got to figure out what you want right out of life. Like you just can't. No one can answer that question for you. right? I mean, maybe that there's stuff going on in your personal life and you have to deal with that. Sometimes it's much more important than going to work, right? So you have to figure out yourself. I don't think anybody can help you figure that out. But then there is a balance, right? You know, you have stuff going on in your personal life, but you know what? You have to earn money, right? Sometimes it's just about, I need to go out and I need to earn money. And you have to try and figure out the balance. And there is a balance. I think, you know, 25 years, 30 years ago, maybe you couldn't walk into a bank and go, oh, I've got issues at home and therefore I need some help. Today, I promise you can, right? I mean, things are so much more flexible than when I started, right? So I don't think you should use that as a reason or as an excuse. I think you should be able to go in and say, this is what I'm going through. I need some help. It means that you may need to step out of your comfort zone. You may need to work some hours that you don't want to work. You may have to do some things that you don't want to in terms of timing, extra. But I think if you make an effort these days, I think most banks will work with you, is what I'm saying. So I wouldn't sort of go, oh, there's something really deep going in my personal life, so I can't go to work. That would be my call, my take on things.
Could I build on that? One thing I'm a bit concerned about is what you've heard from all of us is resilience, go at it, and we're all superheroes. I'll take it for myself, I am not. And I'm very generous of Mary to share her story. I've had a breakdown in work. That is not pretty. And it's because I expected too much of myself, balancing my family, this, ambition to prove myself despite everyone thinking. So you have to be kind to yourself. And that's why when you choose who you work for, you really got to think about the culture you're buying into and whether that's going to work for you. I'll give you an example. I've mentioned that not everyone chooses to have or can have children, but I've had 3 of them. And I remember listening to a speaker who talked about having it all. Absolute nonsense. Let's just be super clear. You cannot be a full-time mother with 3 kids, have a full-time career. Most people are outsourcing it. It's called the nanny. Or they're paying half or all of their wages so they can go to nursery. So I think for me, it was having really honest conversation. There are things I could proactively do in that scenario to up my resilience, but I had to know my boundaries and know where my breaking points are. And also be prepared to walk away. Sometimes you can try, 1,000 times, and actually you need to walk away and find maybe an alternative or something like that. And that is not a failure. That's choosing your health over something that may or may not break you.
And I think if I can add, Sharon's point is really spot on. We make it sound like you need to be Superman or Superwoman. You don't. As I say, it's a people business. We are all the same. If we can make it, you can. I think it's very important not to sit around or hear, I've got to be X to make it. We all come from very different backgrounds, different places, and we all figure out how to make it. And I think that's why we all talk about resilience, because that's the only thing that we have when we think about what gets us there in common. But at the start of it, we are all exactly the same. And as I say, we make it sound like that's a very, very good point you have, because after a while, it just becomes second nature to you. But you don't have to be Superman or Superwoman. And as I say, today, I think banks, in particular, are much more willing to work with you. Walk away if it doesn't work for you. Again, you got to know what you want, and then you go for that. And it doesn't always have to be work. It doesn't always have to be I'm chasing the money or the promotion extra. Sometimes it's just I'm going to look after my family. Right? Life's too short.
And if I may be bold enough to add one other thing around the idea of not maybe going through a very difficult situation in your personal life, the most important thing in my view is never to feel isolated. As in just to always reach out to people within the business that you trust and that you can speak to and get their views and guidance as well. Sort of never feeling isolated when you're in those situations is very important. Do we have time for one more, or are we pushing it a little bit? We've got one right at the back.
Hi, I'm conscious of time, so I'll make this really brief. You guys have spoken about the imposter syndrome. I would just like you to quickly share your experience, if you've experienced that at all in your career, and how you overcame that.
So I'm sorry, the mic was a little bit fuzzy. So was that imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how they experienced it and how they
But experience, you've got any more to share. How do you?
I'll try and be quick. There's a modicum of imposter syndrome that's healthy. It's called humility. So let's just be super clear. What I'm not saying is be arrogant. I'm the big I am. I can do it all. So I want to make sure we haven't misinterpreted that. Humility is really important because it grounds you, makes you appreciate you don't have it all, you don't have all the answers, and you become a really deep listener. But there is a point at which imposter syndrome is a drag on your ability to progress, and it becomes what I call your personal glass ceiling. It's not other people who are stopping you, it's you who are stopping you. And the tips I would give you are probably threefold. Surround yourself by people who are honest, but also pump you up. You know, I think Mary talks about the friends that you talk to. You know, what you want is a really good coach who's going to be honest with you, but motivate you and inspire you. Surround yourself with people who make you feel good about yourself. And then, this might sound odd, but it's like going to the gym, you've got to practice it. So people forget, they think, oh, I'm not going to have imposter syndrome tomorrow. Well, guess what? It's an ingrained habit that's probably taken years to form. It requires effort. You've got to train for the marathon to overcome it. And you'll never, ever not have it. And you have to keep reminding yourself that you can get unfit. And it's everything from what's the narrative in your head? What are you saying to yourself? You're damaging your own thoughts. Don't catastrophize. Put positive thoughts in. You've actually got to practice that, whether it's through meditation, whether it's other people reinforcing it. But yeah, those would be my two tips. Watch who you surround yourself with, and remember it's something that you need to actively work at to change.
What she said.
What she said times 3. But also, I think there is a big lesson in coming prepared for any situation or scenario that you're in. And when I look at some of the successful leaders and very, very senior bankers that I've been in meetings with, right, I see them holding the pitch book, but they've got typed up notes giving them bullet points of everything that they're going to say so they don't forget the key messages to deliver. And I look at that as a more junior banker, with somebody who I aspire to be in a position of 25, 30 years of experience, still goes through the same struggles that we do, right? So you can't take that for granted. You know, maybe they're experiencing imposter syndrome as well. Maybe it's just the fact that this is high stakes business and they don't want to mess this up, right? Because business, revenue generation depends on that. So, you know, there are a lot of things that you can do personally to mitigate that feeling of imposter syndrome. It's not easy, but solicit feedback and also come very, very well prepared.
And I think that is the perfect place to round off to our inspirational leaders. Thank you, Sean, Victor, Michael, and also to Jay, Nana, Anne-Marie, and also our guest, Mary, as well. And also a huge thank you to all of you for spending the evening with us. So thank you very much. Round of applause.
And now on to final remarks, without taking much of our time. I want to say, first of all, a big thank you to everyone in the room that has taken time out of their day to come for Young Black and in Finance 2023. So can we give ourselves a round of applause? I want to say thank you to our panelists, Michael, Victor, Sean, Anne-Marie, Jay, Nana. Thank you for taking time out of the day this has been months of planning. What you see today was birthed in a very brief catch-up call that we have fortnightly. What we do for Black History Month and the careers team. And it just came to mind, Young Black and in Finance, and here we are. Victoria, Nana, my partner in crime, Michaela, can you please stand up? Because we would not be where we are now without them. Shout out to Mary. I have been following Mary for a number of years now, As Mary said, she used to work at Goldman. When I was applying for graduate schemes, I saw Mary was in risk at Goldman. My brother recommended her to me. And I used to see, she used to post some stuff like, I want to do what she does. So I just followed her. She does lots of inspirational quotes and lots of videos. So definitely keep in touch and follow her. She's also around for a chat before you leave. And also taking time out on your 1 year anniversary. Thank you so much. Samaya, our lovely host. When we were talking about Young Black in Finance and discussed who could we get to host this event for us, Michaela and Nana so buddingly said, I know this lovely lady from BUK, she's so good, I've heard her speak, like everyone just listens to her the moment she opens her mouth. And I can honestly say she does hosting with such grace. So can we give a round of applause? Shout out everyone. We have the Early Careers Talent Acquisition team with us today. They've taken time out of their busy schedules. So they're right at the back. Could you give us a wave, please? So applications for all our schemes are actually open. They have been going all around the country at the moment. And have made it very important to be here. So they'll be around for networking. If you have any questions about just application interviews, what we have going on at the bank at the moment, they are your best point of contact. I didn't even introduce myself. My name is Emanuela Bazwe. I am the BPRG Early Careers Co-Lead with my partner in crime, Michaela, at the back. And my day job is I'm a risk analyst at Barclays Inspirational. And for final remarks, I asked the team, what would you like me to say to everyone that comes? What's one thing we want you to take away? There's so many things that I've taken away from our panel, our fireside chat, but if it's one thing, the conversation, the inspiration and the motivation does not end here. It starts the moment you leave the door. We can attend as many of these talks, events about career, imposter syndrome, what should we do? But the main thing is that, you are the key driver of your career. And these events are, yes, to draw inspiration from, but use this network to keep yourself going and also have that conversation once you leave the two doors. And in saying that, as I said, my name is Emanuela. We also have Michaela and everyone else has their badges. Stay in contact. If you have a question or you want to have a chat, I figured out this is what I want to do. Do you have anyone, in the area that you could put me in contact with? We are more than happy to help you with that. I remember when I wasn't in the bank or in a bank attending events like this in a seat like that, would I ever thought that I'd be in a position talking to you guys today? No. But you can be in that position and you deserve to be in that position and you are an asset anywhere you go. And with that being said, thank you very much. We have networking with some light refreshments through the big double, no, it's a single blue door at the back there. Stay as long as you like. I'm conscious it is Monday, so I know everyone won't be staying too long. But yeah, thank you guys.